This November 13th heard the reading of the order imposing 6 former members of the last secretariat of the FARC-EP extinct guerrilla as maximum responsible.
We are before a judicial decision elaborated from the voices of courageous and resilient victims, who after years decided to break the silence to tell their tragedies, from those who as children were forcibly recruited by the former FARC, who were robbed of their innocence, their childhood, their education, their games, and their dreams. To the relatives who are still looking for their missing loved ones, to those of 5 indigenous peoples affected by these behaviors.
Hasta aquellas de 5 pueblos indígenas afectados por estas conductas.
The testimonies of these victims were collected by the Special Jurisdiction for Peace for 8 months to be contrasted with testimonies and images from of the participants and other sources such as the Colombian state in Case 07. The only one of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace dedicated to determining crimes related to recruitment of children and adolescents in the framework of the armed conflict.
This order is very important to the extent that for the first time it defines the individual responsibility of this criminal phenomenon, describing it through a very judicious contrast in determining all those war crimes committed within the framework of the armed conflict and which affected children and adolescents.
After the thorough investigation carried out during 6 years by the Chamber for Acknowledgement of Truth of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace, the magistrates were able to determine that the most profound affectations of the victims who are now adults derive from the permanent exposure to death, anxiety and suffering generated by different forms of violence.
The court determined that the children recruited suffered the loss of the essence of childhood and the annulment of the possibility of forging their own identity. They were denied emotional, social, and educational tools that are crucial to project life in society. And their experiences within the ranks left them with deep emotional scars that remain today.
Taking into account the effects on the victims, which the Special Jurisdiction for Peace concentrated in 5 macro-criminal patterns, the decision of the transitional justice system charged Rodrigo Landano, Paul Catatumbo, Jamie Parra, Milton Tonsel, and Julian Gallo as the maximum responsible parties for the facts of Case 07, who reiterated their commitment to justice and reconciliation in a joint communiqué. They have a maximum of 30 days to accept or not the charges against them.
In Uruguay, the first round of the elections defined the parliamentary integration. The left wing won a majority in the Senate and is in a favorable position to win the government in the ballot on November 24th. Let's see.
Governability has become the central issue in the Uruguayan electoral campaign for the ballot on November 24th. After the first round, the composition of the legislative chambers showed a favorable result for the opposition and its candidate, Yamandú Orsi, who obtained an absolute majority in the Senate, while the ruling party, with Álvaro Delgado, faces a complex scenario as it did not achieve a majority either in the Senate or in the deputies.
In this context, Yamandú Orsi has the advantage of having one of the 2 chambers, which is a chamber that has more powers, more authority, as is the chamber in the Senate with a majority already assigned. That is, today he has 16 members of the Senate who are from his political force, to which he would be added in case Carolina Cos is elected.
This scenario poses a difficult dilemma for the right-wing candidate, Álvaro Delgado, because he will have to negotiate with a Senate composed mostly by the Broad Front, which is a party that behaves as a bloc and is unlikely to approve fundamental laws.
It is to be expected that Delgado will have to propose some more macro and more specific agreements and, in short, to have the capacity or the ability to disarm a little the Broad Front bloc, which is a bloc that generally has a very strong party discipline trajectory, very established. And that makes it a little more difficult to negotiate or reach agreements.
The management of public companies or the permissions to integrate the government will have to be agreed with the left coalition, and although the political climate may help to reach agreements, this will ultimately depend on the parties.
I believe that there is a very democratic climate in Uruguay that allows this collaboration, but it depends on the political actors. It depends on what the parties do and who is in the Senate and in the House of Representatives.
For Senator Daniel Caggiani, when the citizenship doubts in the first round the parliamentary majority for a party, in the ballot it confirms it by electing the president who has that legislative support.
When the citizenship hesitates to give a parliamentary majority to one or another party in the first round, it ends up in the second round confirming that parliamentary majority with the executive. I believe that this also gives predictability, confidence, stability, and I believe that the plus that Yamanda brings in case he is elected president, and that he could not only have this starting point, but he could also reach multi-party agreements with other political forces. I also believe that he will undoubtedly give a very important mantle of governability and stability to the country.
According to a study presented by the Faculty of Social Sciences, with a meta-analysis exercise based on data from 36 polls published since April 2024, the state of the electoral competition in mid-November suggests that Yamandu Orsi would obtain 48% of the votes and Alvaro Delgado 44%. The second round of the Uruguayan elections will be held on November 24th.
Mateo Grille, TeleSUR, Montevideo, Uruguay.
In Caracas, Venezuela, begins the Congress of the Historic Bolivarian Bloc, an exercise of participative democracy led by Nicolás Maduro's government. The Congress comes after more than 90,000 assemblies in the communes and other people's power exercise spaces. 6,000 representatives of all the social forces and collective movements and political parties of the Bolivarian Revolution will attend this strategic meeting. Last Monday, during the preparation process of the Congress, the Venezuelan head of state, Nicolás Maduro, as the first objective of discussions, mentioned the plan of the 7 transformations, a government program with 7 lines of work for 2025 to 2030, based on the strategic thinking of Commander Hugo Chavez. And to go deep into all the details and relevance of this grand Congress of the Historic Bolivarian Bloc, we contact our correspondent Gladys Quesada. Hi, Gladys.
Hi, Ale. Yes, precisely. We are here in La Carlota, which is serving as the main venue for this gathering of the patriotic pole and the bloc, which is these 5 generations and the 7 forces. Those are numbers that when you hear them, you think, well, I don't understand them. Okay, but I'm going to explain. The 5 generations are those who are conforming the ideological basis and, you know, the active generations of the revolution. That's to say, the foundations of the Bolivarian Revolution back in the independence struggles, also the Bolivar ideals, and today, nowadays, those are considered like the cornerstone of the Bolivarian Revolution alongside Hugo Chavez's legacy and the work of Nicolás Maduro Moros, alongside the younger generations, those who are 18 years old, 15 years old, who are named like the genial generation, which is meaning the cool generation, the great generation, and they are the the inheritance of what is doing the government today and what is being done in favor of the future of Venezuela. Also, the 7 forces, those are the main social sectors that conform the revolution, and I have to say those are the indigenous, the native peoples, also the working class, the environmentalists, the non-heteronormative communities, and those are the social bonds, the social organizations that conform this. So if you get together the generations with the social sectors and the intersectional will of construct a new future for Venezuela and a socialist path for Venezuela, that's the result or the outcome of that is what you can see today. This grand Congress that is gathering all the forces and all the generations to construct together a new future and to make a new Venezuela. So that's the premise of this Congress. Today was the first day of discussions, and the 6,000 delegates were gathered in 7 working tables, and those tables are corresponding with the 7 transformations that the President Nicolás Maduro Moros was defining in his government plan, as you were saying, when he was back on July 28th, just a presidential candidate, and now he's the elect chief of state here in Venezuela. As you know, this is one of the many ways that he has to implement his agenda for 2030, and this is one of the many ways to enhance the popular will and also the socialism and the construction of the new Venezuela.
Precisely, Ricardo Menendez, the authority, as you mentioned, leading the 7 Transformations Plan, was one of the main speakers of this first day of debates. What were the main highlights of his speech, and how is the country progressing in terms of economy, public services, and national sovereignty, as you mentioned?
Okay, Ale, we cannot speak about Ricardo Menendez's remarks without speaking or without addressing the remarks of Delcy Rodriguez, which is the vice president of the country, and Jorge Rodriguez, the president of the National Assembly. Both of them are given the historical and social context of this Congress, and they were also, highlighting some concepts that for me were so interesting, like historical dignity, okay? They were speaking about being the inheritance and leaving a legacy at the same time, and how this Congress and the construction of socialism in Venezuela is a way to give an end to capitalism and to give an end to old structures in the world, okay? Old social ways, and birth, give away for the new ways, for the new forms, for the new world, the multipolar world, okay? So those were the remarks by Delcy Rodriguez and also Jorge Rodriguez. Those are, main authorities here in Venezuela and main authorities in the construction of the socialist project. But also, as you were referring, Ricardo Menendez, which is one of the paramount figures of this Congress, he was explaining the need for, due proper planning, accurate location of the resources of the revolution, not to do, vain expenditures, not to do shallow expenses, but to allocate the resources where people are needing those resources. He was also directing one of the working tables, and that's the table number 5, regarding the political changes. He was saying something so interesting, that is that the economy has to go hand in hand with politics. You cannot speak about socialism in politics without changing the roots, the core, the basis of the economy, and to change the model towards socialism. And those are the means of production, the ways of reproduce the well-being and the welfare of the people. And I want to explain something also that he was saying, and he was stating that it is not possible to construct a revolution with corruption inside. It is not possible to construct a revolution with bureaucracy inside. So one of the main topics of his working table today and tomorrow, of course, will be how to alleviate the ways for people to communicate with the leaders, how to alleviate the economy in order to construct new models for making people more productive in terms of economy, and how to enhance these means in the hands of the people, and how to give way for the economy to be one with the policies of the state, and how the model is going to correspond with the socialist goal, the socialist future that Venezuela is envisioning.
Thank you, Gladys, for all the key information. We will be in contact with you.
In Colombia, magistrates of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace charged 6 former leaders of the extinct FARC-EP as those most responsible for the recruitment of more than 1,800 children in the country between the years 1971 and 2016.